Hello and welcome to Triage, timely conversations for healthcare professionals, a podcast created and produced by K&L Gates. Each episode is designed to highlight important developments in health law and analyze the impact on our clients and friends of the firm. We hope you enjoy this podcast.
Welcome to another episode of K&L Gates Triage Podcast. My name is Gabe Scott, and I'm a partner in K&L Gates Healthcare and FDA practice. And today we're going to be talking about the 340B drug discount program, and in particular, some of the recent developments around the rebate model. Prescription drug prices continue to be a hot button issue as drug makers call for ways to facilitate more innovation and research, and providers and consumers search for ways to achieve discounts on drug prices. To tackle this issue today, I'm joined by two attorneys who sit in our Washington, D.C. office and who have extensive experience practicing in the 340B space. Mark Ogunsusi, who is both a partner and a licensed pharmacist, and Amanda Smith, who is counsel at the firm. Mark and Amanda, welcome, and thanks for joining today.
Thanks, Gabe. It's great to be here.
Thanks. Pleasure to be here.
So, Amanda, let's start with you. Give us an overview of the 340B rebate model and where it stands today.
So since its inception, the 340B benefit has been offered as an upfront discount at the point of sale. However, in 2024, several manufacturers suggested a change. Rather than providing discounts up front, they proposed offering the 340B price through rebates issued after the purchase. The administration initially rejected this idea, taking the position that, in theory, 340B as a rebate is allowed, but that the administration has the authority to refuse manufacturer requests to issue 340B as a rebate instead of upfront pricing. A federal district court agreed with the administration that they do have authority to reject or accept rebates or a rebate model, and that after that, the administration decided to allow a rebate pilot program to go through. So this would have allowed for select manufacturers, specifically those with products subject to Medicare negotiated pricing, to offer 340B as a rebate after providers submit claims data to manufacturers through their vendor. The goal from the administration's perspective was to test how a rebate model might work, but that decision was ultimately halted by another federal court based on procedural grounds. So though that rebate pilot was halted at the end of 2025, the concept of 340B as a rebate is not dead because the agency has now issued a request for information with comments due in mid-March to ask stakeholders how a 340B rebate model might look moving forward.
Thanks, Amanda. And so there are stakeholders on both sides of this issue. And so why are covered entities advocating against a rebate model and manufacturers largely supporting it?
The primary concern from covered entities is that a rebate model would increase their costs. There'd be increased administrative burden, and that because they'd have higher upfront costs, they'd have to float that extra cost while waiting for a 340B rebate to be effectuated. There is also some skepticism about manufacturers' intentions and some worry that manufacturers might unilaterally reject rebate requests, which would be a concern from the provider's perspective. On the other hand, from the manufacturer's perspective, the concern is kind of twofold. One is that certain manufacturers believe that there needs to be more transparency into the 340B program, and that the rebate model might be an opportunity to see where the 340B benefit is going and how it's being used. Additionally, we mentioned a rebate pilot that was halted by federal court, and under that pilot, it was specifically tailored to manufacturers that have been selected for Medicare negotiated pricing. Those manufacturers are protected from both a 340B price and a Medicare rebate on the same unit of drug. And so it's referred to as deduplication. There can't be a duplicate Medicare price, 340B price on the same drug. And the rebate pilot was supposed to be a mechanism to help protect manufacturers impacted by this from duplicated discounts. And so with the rebate pilot halted, there's currently no mechanism in place to accomplish this. And so those specific manufacturers are also concerned that there's now no mechanism to prevent deduplication between 340B and the Medicare negotiated price.
So, Mark, turning to you, Amanda mentioned that the rebate pilot has been halted now. And so as 340B program stakeholders think about next steps, what what considerations should they be evaluating?
Thanks, Gabe. Well, you mentioned stakeholders. So stakeholders, as we know, there are many 340B program stakeholders. The main stakeholders, besides the patients and underserved communities, are 340B healthcare providers and manufacturers. At least that's as far as I see it. Regarding the rebate model program next steps, I think that they both could consider submitting comments as part of the 340B rebate model request for information, or RFI. Areas in which HHS has requested information under the RFI include costs for covered entities, payment timing and potential cash flow impacts for covered entities, safety net providers, rebate denials, data collection, and manufacturer efforts to avoid duplicate discounts. I think it's also wise to monitor congressional activity. You know, I'm aware of at least one bill that's been introduced to carve out community health centers from the rebate pilot. And some stakeholders are deeply considering collaboration voluntarily between providers and manufacturers to furnish data to, let's say, a neutral drug clearinghouse or a government-led claims repository or clearinghouse. They say that this approach might be beneficial to avoiding government intervention.
So, Mark, then how does the rebate model then relate to, other conversations involving 340B claims data and transparency?
Right. So pharmaceutical manufacturers, our nation's pharmaceutical product innovators, really important work. They typically request claims data for three reasons. First, to avoid paying duplicate discounts under payer arrangements. Payers can include federal healthcare programs, commercial insurance. Second, to prevent violations of the 340D program alleged diversion to ineligible patients by covered entities. And third, they generally want to control 340 drug distribution systems, like, delivery of 340 drugs to shipping addresses and contract pharmacy destinations. Covered entities generally believe, on the other hand, that they're transparent and compliant enough. They believe that they are transparent with respect to and compliant with respect to their 340B audits internally, third-party independent audits, HRSA audits, internal Medicaid duplicate discount controls, and even state-level transparency requirements like Minnesota and Colorado. They even have to report under the cost report, and they have grant audit requirements. So the hospitals and health centers and Ryan White clinics, they believe that they're already subject to internal controls and transparency.
Yeah, super interesting to see sort of both sides of the issue here. Mark, as we sort of wrap up our time here and you think about, key takeaway points for 340B program stakeholders, what comes to mind?
Yeah, key takeaway, I'll keep it short. One thing is clear to me. I think that it's pretty clear that HRSA is still seriously considering a 340B rebate model. The rebate model RFI is highly detailed. So I think considering how to respond to the rebate model request for information is kind of my key takeaway point at this moment. It's highly specific. Some might argue it's requesting detailed and potentially proprietary information. So stakeholders, both manufacturers, healthcare providers, pharmacies, et cetera, they should consider how to respond in formulating a proper response to the RFI.
Very interesting and lots to consider. Many thanks to Mark and Amanda for joining us today, for sharing these insights, and to our listeners for joining us on this episode of Triage. If you have questions about the 340B program, about the rebate model, or responding to the RFI, please contact Mark, Amanda, or myself, or your usual K&L Gates attorney. Until next time, thanks and take care.
Thanks again for listening to Triage, timely conversations for healthcare professionals. New episodes are available for download through Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. By subscribing to Triage, you will receive timely notifications for each new episode. Also, if you have any topics you would like to hear discussed on Triage, please don't hesitate to email triagesupport@klgates.com. We would love to hear from you.